Hezbollah terror fire. There were several rockets that were fired directly at Haifa, which is a very crucial Israeli city. This is a very crucial port city. This has an oil refinery, it has a gas refinery, a very big port as far as Israel is concerned, and a very crucial port. What Haifa also has is an important military garrison all around for protection of northern Israel from the Hezbollah just across the border at Lebanon. Here at Haifa, we are very close to an air raid shelter because earlier today air raid sirens went off. We were fortunately very close to a center. We were air raid center, and we were advised to go to that bomb shelter. And that is why over the skies of Haifa, you do see some plumes of cloud-like smoke, because that is where, when the incoming rockets came in, the Iron Dome anti-missile defense shield got activated, and those rockets were destroyed. In Haifa, they were destroyed. However, in some adjoining areas, some rockets did hit the ground, and there was some minimal damage. And that is why this explains the helmet and the bulletproof jacket at all times. Right now, if you're out in the open, people have been advised either one, stay indoors. If you're outdoors, please be very close to a bomb shelter. Hezbollah, according to the Israeli Defense Forces, is increasingly getting desperate. But I must tell you one part of the military aspect of this conflict right now. Just as Hezbollah fires those rockets and missiles, there are multiple radars all along this belt. And those radars, they triangulate the movement of the trajectory of the rocket. For example, if a rocket has been fired from Hezbollah from a hidden location, the moment that rocket flies towards Israel, there are weapon locating radars, or WLRs as they are known. Those WLRs are able to triangulate the exact location from where those rockets have been fired, and immediately CD or counter bombardment or counter measures are effectively taken. And Israel has perhaps some of the best countermeasures in the region. Not just ground countermeasures, but immediately you have Israeli Air Force fighter jets that take off, and you can hear some of those fighter jets in the sky even as we speak. Those fighter jets take off and bomb that location from where those rockets and missiles have been fired into northern Israel. Today, through the day, from early this morning, the India Today team traveled to several parts of northern Israel, from Acre, which is an ancient tourist city. It was once a trade center. You have an Arab quarter there, you have a German quarter there, and it's virtually abandoned. And I'll bring you that report from Acre. Then we also travel up north we tried to get to Metula, but that's a military zone. No civilian movement is permitted, because that is where intense shelling is taking place. Hezbollah is constantly targeting that area, but those areas have been completely vacated by locals who've either come here to Haifa or gone beyond to Tel Aviv, which is about an hour and a half from here, or even Jerusalem, which is some distance away. So if you look at Israel right now, the situation is very tense. From the north, just across the Haifa Bay, you have Lebanon that continues to target Israel. In the south, Hamas, some of those Hamas strongholds were bombed by the Israeli Air Force. Now, when you consider operations of the Israeli Air Force, they are bombing Hamas in Gaza. They're bombing the Islamic Jihad in the West Bank. They're bombing Hezbollah in Lebanon, just across from where I am right now. And then you have the Israeli Air Force, and you have the Americans that are bombing Houthi rebels, or the Houthi forces, as far away as Yemen, which is practically 2,000 kilometers plus from where I am right now. But the American fighter jets and their anti-missile defense system is targeting some of the Houthi strongholds. Why? Because the Houthis have been targeting the American ships, the British ships. They're targeting the sea lanes of communication in the Red Sea. The situation extremely volatile across this region. I bring you this report to begin this special broadcast.
Sir, it is an 8-minute report. Anchor Solo, after the report, you will go to the reporter, Emily, okay? You know her, right? What pole, sir? What pole? BOTPOL.
I'm currently in Acre in the northern part of Israel. This is about an hour's drive from Haifa in northern Israel, and this is one of the worst impacted areas. Whether it's Galil a little ahead or Metula, these are areas that are directly in the line of Hezbollah fire. Rocket attacks have happened just a short while back, and if you look all around, this place is virtually abandoned. A very, very bustling tourist town. This is virtually abandoned. This, of course, is the Arab quarter here. There are some men, of course, who are still staying behind. Most of the women and children have been sent to a safer area. The men are staying behind so that they can look after their property. They can look after this area. This, if you looked right behind me, this is the lighthouse of Acre. This is the Mediterranean Sea just behind me, and just beyond, as the crow flies, barely 6 to 8 kilometers as the crow flies, is the area where the Lebanese forces in southern Lebanon are targeting this area. So we're directly in the line of Lebanese fire, and with me right now is Shlomi Haskell. And Mr. Haskell, if I may, Mr. Haskell is somebody who lives here in Haifa, has been living here for quite some time. He's a former Israeli Navy officer. So what can you tell me about the current situation here?
Now the situation, it's very bad. All the people stay at home, don't go outside. Actually, Saturday morning, hundreds of people go to restaurant and traveling. Nobody here. The street and the road, it's empty.
How
5-7 kilometers from here, northern from here, it's a Lebanon border between. This is the border between Israel and Lebanon. We're gonna see there we're gonna be there in a few minutes. Then we'll see what happens.
And the situation here also remains very tense.
Very, yeah.
People are leaving their homes and going to safer areas.
Yeah, it doesn't go outside at all.
So that's the situation right now. People are leaving this area. They're going to safer areas. If you look around, it's a very beautiful touristy part of Israel. It's an ancient city. Haifa, anyway, as you know, is a historic city. India and Haifa have a First World War connection. We'll talk about that in greater detail subsequently. But right now, there's clear and present danger of an addition of more missile strikes that are likely to take place in this area as Israel intensifies its operations against Lebanon, against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Right behind me is a military police checkpoint near Akziv in Rosh Nikra area, and Rosh Nikra is the northernmost tip of Israel, beyond which is Lebanon, and this is where India today is reporting from ground zero. The heart of tension between Israel and Lebanon right now begins from this area, and let me once again try and explain how important this area is right now. Israeli forces are moving in from this area. As you see beyond this checkpoint, you have some military vehicles that are parked here, and beyond this is a military area. No civilians can go beyond this point. From there, forces are now making inroads into southern Lebanon, trying to secure this flank from the Hezbollah terrorists. This is how sensitive this area is, where we are reporting from the northernmost tip of Israel, from where operations against Lebanon are currently being undertaken. The situation here remains extremely tense. All the way from here down to Haifa, this entire belt is in the line of Hezbollah rocket and missile fire. And even as we speak, as you see behind me, there are multiple military vehicles that are going towards the border area. And because it's a sensitive military zone, we are told you should leave this place as quickly as possible, because this is the time that rocket attacks usually begin. Mr. Haskell, how sensitive is the area where we are right now?
Now we are staying no more than 3 kilometers from the northern point. After that, it's the border between Lebanon and Israel. Actually, you see it's very quietly, nobody here. The road is empty. The military parent, they don't let us go more than that. And we stop here, we try to see the view from there, but it's we cannot go there right now.
And right now, when we look at this area, why this becomes very sensitive? Because it's from there that Hezbollah is firing its rockets. The rockets are even falling where you and I are standing right
Yeah.
now. So I
Any
was told
minute it can happen.
anytime anything can happen. I was told by the army that you wear your bulletproof jacket immediately. We are barely a couple of kilometers away from the Israel-Lebanon border in northern Israel, and this is one of the kafars or the villages or kibbutz that is being cleared out, and people are being asked to move to safer areas. We are just being told that we're supposed, as they can hear, apparently there is some movement that is happening. There are people rushing into their homes. We are also trying to rush into their home right now. So situation here is extremely tense. Let me now try and show. This is the house. This is a safety door that has been shut. This is a door that's completely been shut down now as soon as those sirens were heard. And with the family, sir, once the siren goes off, this is a specially reinforced door that you've shut.
Yes, of course. It's good. So heavy. It's good heavy.
And I want to show you this house. So it has a specially reinforced all metal door, all metal frame inside this door that's been shut. Ventilation point completely shut. The moment that rocket is fired from that side, how much time do we have here?
We need 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
To run to the Mamad.
Just 15 seconds.
Yes.
Just 15 seconds.
So it takes, you have only 15 seconds to run to this shelter. This is the bomb shelter in this house. It's actually a very well constructed bomb shelter which has specially reinforced concrete walls. Usually if walls are around 2 brick strength, which is about 9 inches, here it's more than 4 brick strength.
Yes.
It's more, so
I think 20 centimeters.
20 centimeters. 20 centimeters is the thickness of the wall. Bulletproof glass, specially reinforced. Of course, they have air conditioning, for oxygen to be resupplied and for fresh oxygen to come in. There's machine, and it's also done manually because if you recall when Hamas terrorists had attacked southern Israel last time, though most houses have this mamad, as it's known as, or this special constructed bomb shelter, they really have to ensure to stay here for several hours. You have food, you have water, you have snacks, you have television, and also power backup till the time security reinforcements can come in. But you're unfortunately always living in harm's way. Gaurav Sawant in northern Israel for India Today.
So right now I'm in northern Israel, and from northern Israel, let me take you straight to southern Israel. And that is where Emily Botpol joins me on this special broadcast. And Emily, you are in some of the worst impacted areas of the October 7 terror attack from 2023. You've been to Kafar Biri, you've been to Kafar Aza. I had reported from some of those areas from the 8th of October onwards, 2023. Right now, Emily, is it just about mourning the losses, pledging never to let that happen again? Or, Emily, is there still clear and present danger Hamas could strike again? How strong is Hamas as a terrorist organization now?
Well, right now, I am no longer in southern Israel. I'm in Tel Aviv. But for having spent the day in southern Israel, for sure, there is still ongoing fighting. There's still noises of ongoing fighting. But yes, the population right now is focused on commemoration, on commemorating Hamas's October 7 massacre of 1,200 people, commemorating 1,200 people that were murdered, that were burnt, as well as 251 that were kidnapped, 101 of which are still right now in the tunnel of Gaza. To go to the north right now and update you on some of the developments, Saudi media have reported that a week after the assassination of Hezbollah's chief, Hassan Nasrallah, Nasrallah's presumed heir, Hashem Safieddin, has been killed. Now, this has not been confirmed. It's important to say that this is from Saudi media. This has not been confirmed by the IDF yet, but Reuters and CNN are reporting that Safiuddin is unreachable as we speak. The IDF has updated that since the beginning, earlier this week, of its ground operation, 250 Hezbollah terrorists have been killed. They have raised the number today to 400 Hezbollah terrorists killed since the beginning of the ground operation. We also know that since the beginning of the operation, the IDF has sustained its first fatalities in the ground operation, 9 soldiers, in addition to 2 soldiers who were killed in an Iraqi drone strike on a Golan Heights base. In the last 2 weeks, we know that the IDF has decimated Hezbollah's leadership and many elements of the Red One force. As we approach,
Emily, stay
like
with
you
me.
very
Emily,
much
stay with me.
the commemoration of Hamas's October 7 massacre of
Yes.
1,200 just about a year ago. On Monday, it will make it a year. There's still 60,000 people who are displaced and unable to return to their houses in the north and in northern communities
Absolutely.
where sirens are resounding all day. The next few days will
Absolutely.
be
I'm reporting
about
from here.
commemoration.
I'm reporting from the north, and we're listening to those sirens. You're absolutely right. But stay with me for a moment. I want to now quickly cut across to Lebanon, where my colleague Ashraf Bani, Emily, now joins us for more. Ashraf, Emily was just telling us about Israeli operations in southern Lebanon, where, according to information that Saudi media is reporting, even Hassan Nasrallah's successor, Hashim Saifuddin, has been neutralized. There were reports that seemed to indicate that he was injured and out of communication, but has he been neutralized? Point 1. Point 2, apparently the Hezbollah continue to fight back in that belt that Israel once vacated in southern Lebanon. What's the latest that you can tell us? And you apparently are now reporting from the other side, the Syrian-Lebanese border. Bring us the latest, Ashraf.
Gaurav, actually, during last few hours, the IDF has intensified its attacks on the southern suburb, and during last 1 hour, 5 airstrikes were carried out in the southern suburb. I was early in the morning in the southern suburb of the Beirut, where I have seen the impact and the devastation by these aerial strikes, particularly the Hezbollah infrastructure, which was created during last 18 years, and how that is being demolished by the specific aerial strikes of the Israel. Now, as far as the you said about the new chief of the Hezbollah, Hashim Saifuddin, Hezbollah has confirmed it. The sources to India Today that he was seriously injured in the aerial strike of the missile in the suburbs of Beirut, and there was not any medico allowed to enter into that premises when he got injured. In fact, the help of the Red Cross as well as the UNIFIL was taken to reach him by the Hezbollah people, and finally he is being treated, but he's very critical and probably may be dead, but that has not yet been confirmed by the Hezbollah itself. But one thing what we are getting from the reliable sources is that Hezbollah is now thinking to change the leadership to new commander, and that will be decided in a shura of the religious leaders of Hezbollah, and probably it will be looked after by the Iran regime itself. And there are chances that on Monday, new leader for the Hezbollah will be appointed here. As far as the southern border, you are on the other side, and I was yesterday a whole day on this side, just a few kilometers away from you. I was in the Tyre city. I went towards the beach road, which heads towards the Haifa. In fact, there is a sea route, but not the land route towards Haifa. And continuously from last 1 week, particularly after the assassination of the Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah is regularly targeting northern parts, as you are witnessing, from southern parts, not only Haifa, but Safed and other parts of the northern Israel, because they think that probably that will be the only way to protect the invading Israeli troops, which are now currently in some parts of the southern Lebanon and trying to push
That's very
further
interesting. You
towards.
should mention that, Ashraf, because this in 2006 had ended in a stalemate, which many saw as victory for the Hezbollah. Some argued that Israel was able to meet its limited aims. The jury's still out of that one. But 18 years later, Emily, now that Israeli forces are going in once again, what are lessons learned from 2006 that it doesn't end up in another stalemate? That 34-day conflict, is it likely to be endless this time? What's Israel's end game when its troops go into Lebanon once again? And unfortunately, there have been some casualties on all sides.
Look, I think very much that Israel has proved with in the latest 2 weeks with the pagers attack and the target assassinations of Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's chief, and major element, taking out major elements of the Redwan force and Hezbollah's leadership, that the operation is extremely precise. Now, we know that Israel went in because also, and as part of it, Hezbollah was planning on October 7 an invasion of northern communities, much like the one that happened nearly a year ago in southern Israel by Hamas, Hamas October 7 massacre. And Israel has made it an objective to prevent any sort of action to the sort.
Okay.
Israel has said that the operation, the ground operation, is a localized and precise operation, which very much should be limited in time. I do want to take you for a minute to a matter that is extremely, present today in Israel, which is after Iran's launching earlier this week of over 180 ballistic missiles at Israel, sending millions of Israelis to bomb shelters. The IDF has expressed the fact that it is planning a harsh and it is seeking a harsh response to Iran's attack.
Okay.
President Joe Biden has said that he has suggested that Israel refrain from targeting oil production sites in Iran, which were before part of the discussion. President Joe Biden also said that the United States does not dictate to Israel what to do, but rather advises Israel on how to conduct its business. He also said that the United States opposes hit on Iran's nuclear sites. We are awaiting a response, and we are waiting to hear what sort of shape the response will be taken.
Fair enough. Stay with me and let me bring in Ashraf on that. Ashraf, as far as the Hezbollah are concerned, they were able to stall the Israeli forces in 2006 in that 34-day conflict. But if you look at the current situation, this time, apparently having learned their lessons from 2006, Israel first, as Emily was also pointing out, use those pager attacks to take out the tactical leadership. Then the walkie-talkie attack to take out the close proximity leadership. Then Hassan Nasrallah himself was neutralized. And from Fuad Shukr, right from 31st of July, from Fuad Shukr to Surur, Hussein Surur, to that drone leadership, missile leadership, rocket leadership, air leadership, ground commanders, the entire top leadership has been neutralized. The second rung, before they can, get into onto the saddle, they are being neutralized. How weakened is Hezbollah in your appreciation, since you're on ground? You can tell us the best.
Gaurav, actually, there is some setback for the Hezbollah here in the Lebanon, no doubt about that. Either we will talk about the elimination of their leadership, but more than that, their infrastructure has been destroyed in the aerial strikes, not only in the south suburb, which was the headquarter of the Hezbollah, but also in the installations and the upper level, or we can say on-land infrastructure in the southern parts of Lebanon, particularly in the villages which are near the border with the northern Israel. But one thing is clear, that Hezbollah has learned a lot of things from 2006 war. They have, as you were mentioning yesterday, they have the infrastructure underground. They have their missiles stored in those underground tunnels with vehicles carrying them. And still, they have not used those long-range missiles which are with them. And another important point is that Hezbollah is regularly getting the weapons, the support, the logistic support, as well as the man support from the Iran. Iran's supreme leader yesterday on Friday sermon completely said that they are not going to let down the Hezbollah and Lebanon, they will be behind them. That means it is the IRG which is completely in support of the Hezbollah in currently going on war on the southern part of Lebanon. And also what
Okay.
reports we are getting today that Hezbollah has given some kind of setbacks to the IDF. There might be casualties, maybe reported later by the IDF, but they are giving them very tough time in advancing to the southern parts of Lebanon.
And that southern part of Lebanon, the Hezbollah has a maze of tunnels. Now, if you thought Hamas had a maze of tunnels, Hezbollah tunnels, we are told, is a generation ahead. As Ashraf was just reporting, tunnels which are wide enough for trucks to move in, for missiles to move in, for missiles to be launched from underground silos and mobile launchers, and also some kind of a twin rail movement for rockets and missiles much faster for their replenishment. But what Israel is also doing is trying to stall the replenishment, targeting the supplying of those missiles, whether it's in Syria or whether it's destroying that border crossing with Syria, or destroying that airport, targeting that airport, which incidentally was manned by Russians. Emily and Ashraf, for joining me here for the moment, many thanks. Now, India Today's Ashraf Vani is directly in the line of fire as he reports from the Lebanon-Syria border, and that's the border that Israel bombed. Now, why did Israel bomb that road that was going into Syria? That's to ensure that weapon supplies and replenishment cannot happen. There are several other routes that Israel is keeping a hawkeye on. Given, why I was looking in the sky was there was some drone movement that could be heard, but then these are drones, the Searchers and the Herons Mark II that fly at 35,000 feet altitude. They loiter as much as they can. They keep a hawkeye on everything that's happening down. Now, if they're doing that in own territory, imagine what they're doing across in Lebanon. And that is where when leadership comes out or when there is movement, that movement is instantly targeted. India Today's Ashraf Vani with this report.
I'm currently in the South Beirut, and after the more than 200 blasts during Thursday night, on Friday night there was another series of aerial strikes in this area of Dahia district in South Beirut. Behind me, this is a multi-story housing colony, and each and every apartment of this particular area has been targeted during the Friday night. And on the Saturday morning, you can see what is the condition of this whole colony. There was no one except some of the Hezbollah fighters who were targeted in this housing apartment. And there are reports of more than 25 people had been killed in these attacks here in the southern suburb of Beirut. There is not any kind of a pause from the Israeli Air Force in attacks on Lebanon. Now, these aerial attacks and missile strikes had went to different areas of Lebanon, with South Lebanon now in the east also, and in the central Lebanon too. There is fear. More than 2 million people from Lebanon have already displaced from this spot. Ashraf Vani for India Today in south suburb of Beirut. I'm currently exactly at that part of the highway which connects Beirut city with the Damascus, and it also joins the two countries, that is Lebanon with Syria. And this is the only road from which during last many weeks more than 2 million people have already crossed to Syria for finding any safe place there to live, because there is so much threat for life in the southern parts of Beirut as well as in the south part of Lebanon, where currently ground invasion of Israeli forces is going on. Now you can see the condition of this highway. You may see how much deep this cut has got formed due to the missile strike. In fact, 25 feet deep hole created by that missile strike, which was created by the Israeli Air Force by air bombing this highway, and both the necks of this accesses of this road had been completely damaged, and it is not able for any motor vehicle to pass through highway. Now what the people who get displaced from this area are doing, they just move by foot and cross this point here and by foot, and then take the other vehicle from other side of the road. You can see how the people are coming here with their luggages, bags, whatever they have, and moving by foot from that side, which is walkable, and then crossing towards the Syria. And this road, IDF claims, was not only used by the people who get displaced from Lebanon, but also is a main pipeline and lifeline for Hezbollah. Ashrafani for India Today on Damascus Beirut Road on border of Lebanon.
Now, see, what is Israel's strategy? Israel is following a precise military strategy. It neutralized Hamas first. It's targeting Hezbollah next. The Americans are targeting the Houthi rebels. So this is like cutting off some of the tentacles of that octopus of Iran, is what the Israeli Defense Forces say. So you cut off the arms of this terrorist entity and then target Iran. And that's the million-dollar question. When will Israel target Iran? It's not a question of if or whether, it's when and what. What will be that target? Will it be the nuclear research centers, which many in Israel argue it's a golden opportunity, once in a 50-year opportunity? As Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel, said, it's time to neutralize the nuclear assets of Iran to ensure it doesn't become a nuclear weapons state. If it fails, it could actually lead to Iran, actually speeding up that entire process. Will it be taking out those oil wells? Of course, Iran has said that there will be a catastrophic impact in terms of retaliation, where some of these assets of Israel will be in the line of Iran's fire. And despite having all the Iron Domes and the David Sling and the Arrow 2 and the Arrow 3 and the Patriot missile systems and the fighter jets, many missiles did manage to hit at least some areas which Iran claims were not directly in the line of fire, but just to send out a symbolic message close to the Mossad headquarters, as Iran claims. Well, we're still waiting to see what Iran does, but this is something that's keeping this entire region on the edge. As I slip into a quick break, I want to leave you with this report on what Iran intends to do. We'll be reporting through the next several days and weeks on the latest, as this remains Tinderbox West Asia.
Iran braces for a widely anticipated Israeli retaliation to its missile strike. Tehran has warned Tel Aviv it will target Israel's energy plants and facilities if needed. Satellite images show that Iran has moved its tankers and oil vessels from the oil rigs in Kharg Island. Iran's oil installations are being seen as potential targets for an Israeli counterattack. Iranian foreign minister met with his Syrian counterpart in Damascus as Tehran tries to drum up support from its allies.
The most important issue now is the ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza. There are some initiatives in this regard, and there have been consultations that we hope will materialize. But unfortunately, the hostilities and crimes of the Zionist regime still continue.
Iran's axis of resistance has suffered another blow. Hassan Nasrallah's presumed successor, Hashem Safieddin, is confirmed dead. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike on the southern suburb of Beirut on Thursday. Israeli Defense Forces have now begun airstrikes in North Lebanon, widening the conflict further deep into Lebanon. Israeli aircraft targeted a residential apartment in the vicinity of the Bedawi Palestinian refugee camp in northern Lebanon. Thick smoke blanketed towns in Lebanon as Israel launched a barrage of rockets.
Behind me, this is a multi-story housing colony and each and every apartment of this particular area has been targeted during the Friday night. And on the Saturday morning, you can see what is the condition of this whole colony. There was no one except some of the Hezbollah fighters who were targeted in this housing apartment. And there are reports of more than 25 people had been killed in these attacks here in the southern suburb of Beirut.
Hezbollah released a video showing their fighters targeting Israel's El Yakim military site and Neve Zev artillery position in northern occupied Palestine. Israeli ground operations in southern Lebanon this week followed 2 weeks of intense airstrikes and bombardments. Israel claims it has killed over 250 Hezbollah fighters, including the top commanders.
There 3,000 strikes have taken place in which there are multiple targets of Hezbollah that have been taken out. Now, these strikes go all the way to Beirut, not just, the southern part of Lebanon, but even in Beirut, where the entire top leadership of Hezbollah has been decimated, including the new leadership that's coming up. They are also being targeted. So that shows the intensity of Israel's operations, both from air and using their howitzers, their cannon.
Meanwhile, a ceremony was held in Kibbutz Biri in Israel to remember the 10 cyclists who were murdered on October 7th last year when Hamas carried out its terror attack.
We have to remember them, and we have to writing for them. So I think this is our mission. They stay with wishes, and we do it. It's about community. It's about bicycle. It's about people.
Even as West Asia is on the edge, former US President Donald Trump has suggested Israel should target Iran's nuclear facilities in response to the Islamic Republic's recent missile barrage. His remark came after President Joe Biden said that an all-out war should be avoided.
We have to be totally prepared. We have to be absolutely prepared. But when they asked him that question, the answer should have been, hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later.
There's a lot we are doing. The main thing we can do is try to rally the rest of the world and our allies into participating like the French are in Lebanon and other places to tamp this down. But when you have proxies as irrational as Hezbollah and the Houthis, and it's a hard thing to determine.
While Iran surpasses Israel in personnel and ground forces, Israel holds a clear advantage in technology and strategic assets like ballistic missiles and nuclear warheads. An escalation in war could drag in more countries and impact global economy. With Gaurav Sawant in Tel Aviv, Ashraf Wani in Beirut, Bureau Report, India Today.